This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is one of the better known resource investors and one of the most cautious resource investors in the space, a legendary investor, friend, advisor, mentor, pick your adjective, Mr. Jeff Phillips. Jeff, great to have you back on. I know that you just got back from the Rick Roll Symposium. I also know that you're under the weather, so I really appreciate you taking the call on such short notice and being under the weather. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good, Gerardo. Yeah, it's a great conference. I've known Rick for a long time, and great conference, but a few too many cocktails and a lot of work during the day, and I came back with a cold. So, but I'm doing okay. Thanks for having me on.
Well, listen, thanks again for making the time. I'm obviously going to pick your brain about, current clients and companies that you really like. But before we do all of that, the introduction was very intentional. I said you were one of the most cautious investors in the resource space. And look, in the nearly 2 decades that I've known you, it's usually me that's the optimistic one in the group that sees the potential in everything most times. And it's you telling me why it likely won't work. And so recently, your conversations with myself and the conversations you've had in public have had more of a positive and optimistic tone to them. And so I got to ask you, how was the climate and how was the mood at the conference there with Rick, and how was the conference overall?
The conference was excellent. I've been to a number of Rick's conferences, and again, I'm friends with Rick, but I'd say this is the best one I've ever been to. You have the old, what I call the old timers, people who go to these conferences and you see the same faces and, even the attendees. But this year there was, half of the attendance was new people, and I think there's, a different sentiment in the air for what's going on, both here in the States, with, starting to realize that a lot of these minerals are coming from other places and we need to have our own supply. And the simple fact that even without that, we've underexplored, we're behind on, keeping up with our use of a lot of these metals, whether it be uranium or copper or, and so forth. So the atmosphere was really great. Some great new friends I met, some great old friends. It's almost like a high school reunion. Gerardo, it's pretty fun. And I encourage all your listeners, you can actually sign up to go to the Rick Roll Symposium and get all the talks online. And really, you can look at a lot of the companies that we'll probably talk about. Rick interviews them. If you go to YouTube and type in their name, Rick Roll Interview Symposium, you'll get the interview Rick did with those companies. There's nobody better than Rick than interviewing companies. So.
No, listen, you and Rick are probably the two people that least need to be working hard, that work the hardest in this space. And I got to tell you, that's for someone like me, I've been in this space for nearly 2 decades, as you know, right? And it's really refreshing when, I'm having conversations with you or I'm interviewing Rick and I'm seeing the pace and the urgency to take advantage of this cycle. I have to believe that you share Rick's sentiment that there's no way in hell that you're missing out on this bull market that seems to be well underway in the resource space, because you've taught me that, out of 10 years, maybe you make money for 2 or 3, but those 2 or 3 years make the other 7 or 8 well worth it. Is that an accurate assessment of where you think we are right now in the resource space?
Yeah, first off, Gerardo, Rick's a whole nother level for me. Again, I appreciate my name being used with Rick. He's a legend, but when we were lucky enough, on Monday, the first day of the conference, Rick and I were the lead orders in a new financing in a company called Concora Copper, which I'm really excited about. The financing is happening now. It's a great prospect generator, also has their own gold property they'll be doing work on, but, $110 million in potential partner funding so far. So getting to have my name in a press release was an honor. I don't usually do that. But yeah, my sentiment on the market right now is only my opinion, and other people have different opinions. But I think the precious metals and the PGMs, we've seen the price of those metals, and especially gold and silver, doing really well. That's where it starts. You start to see the metals do well. Then you tend to see the bigger producers doing well in that sector. Then as those get more valued, it moves down towards the one asset producers and the developers. And as we get to the what I like to call the hockey stick of the junior market, which we're approaching, the juniors really take off in those spaces. And I think we're coming up on that here in the next 18 months, and it's already started. And I'm very excited about the precious metals. I'm a little more cautious on the base metals and some of the other stuff. Not that I don't think there's going to be a massive bull market. I really think it's going to be one for the ages that's coming. I just tend to feel that the overall natural resource market tends to have its best move after you have a financial correction, such as the real estate crisis in 2008, the dot-com crisis in 2001, the 92 recession. In the mid 90s, that natural resource market, I think that it was crazy. Most people don't remember any of the bull markets that are in our space now, but when you get a bull market, it's pretty fun. So I think we're heading that way. I'm definitely very optimistic on the precious metal space. I'm looking for the right names in copper, uranium, even nickel, which is down and out, I think is something that someone should be looking at here. So again, and obviously the rare earths, which I've been involved in the first boom, I'd call it. I think we're about to have another boom. So yeah, I'm pretty optimistic.
No, look, again, anytime that Jeff Phillips is optimistic, puts a smile on my face, because I know we've been positioning aggressively here over the past several years in anticipation for this market. And to hear you say that you think we have it now, it again puts a smile on my face. I think we're in for a great couple of years. So look, let's get to the $1 million question, right? What everybody wants to know. What does Jeff Phillips like? And I know that you consult for several companies, but I also know that you write checks for companies that you believe in, that are structured correctly with the right team and the right assets, where you don't consult for them. You simply support them because they're great companies. So what has stuck out to you here, and what do you like out in the space?
Well, you hit the nail on the head, Gerardo. I'm about structure. I like to see it. It's not just about how many shares are outstanding. It's about who those shareholders are. Are they reporting? Are they insiders? And if they're not, who are they? Are they going to help? Are they going to stick with the company? Are they longer term? That's what builds a great natural resource company, because nothing happens from point A to point B. There's all kinds of trials and tribulations along the way, and you want a good team, and that's your shareholders, and not just the management. You want good people, obviously, and hopefully a good project. But again, for your listeners, I'll name some of the companies I've worked with and why I like them. But remember that I still think that there can be in this bull market, I think there will be a correction in the overall markets, which will create a liquidity problem in the short term, maybe for some of the resource sector. But I'm happy to be buying now, because I think this bull market, you won't even notice it when it comes. So what was your question again, Gerardo? You want me to name some companies?
Absolutely. Got you here. You're under the weather. Might as well take advantage of the presence, right?
All right. Well, like you said, I write big checks for companies. Like I mentioned, Concora at the beginning of the thing, and they will be a client of mine once they close their financing. And I act as a strategic advisor to make sure they keep their share structures tight and give them advice on future financing. So at the conference, there were several companies that, again, fit the structure mold and have advanced since I first financed them. I'm still a large shareholder. I'm not directly advising them anymore. So there was obviously Bravo Mining was there. You're familiar with Bravo. It's a PGM deposit in Brazil. The chairman of the board owns 50% of the company. He's fully reporting. They have shareholders like BlackRock and Tembo and Rick Rule and myself. And it's just a great company. PGM prices are coming back. I think that's a tier 1 asset they're developing. Plus they have another copper discovery that they're working on there. I think that's an excellent company to look at. Again, it's a bigger market cap now from when I finance companies, but I think it goes higher, and I think there's somebody who wants to own that in the future. Another company there I really like is one of the John Black companies. John Black is a very successful geologist, entrepreneur. He has built and sold a company before. He's had 2 spin-outs from that where all shareholders made money. He's got Regulus and Aldebaran that were at the conference, both high-quality companies, well-structured, big players that are big mining companies and investors that are shareholders. And I'm still a large shareholder in Aldebaran, his company, which is I believe a tier 1 copper asset in Argentina. He's got people like Route 32, Tech Cominco, major mining companies that are shareholders. I'm sorry, it's not Tech, it's Rio Tinto. And Rio Tinto just did a big deal that if it goes all the way through, for 20%, they're spending $200 million. And I think the market cap of the company is, 200 or 300 million. So I think that's a great speculation on copper. Again, it's advanced from when I financed it at 30 cents, 4 or 5 years ago. It's currently around $2.20. But again, I think this is a company that is an asset that gets taken out. Another company that was at the conference was Revival Gold. You're familiar with Revival Gold. Again, I'm a large shareholder. At the conference, Rick's conference, they were the belle of the ball. A lot of people interested. A lot of things have been happening there over the last 2 months. They decided to go to the route, taking in a major new shareholder. They're raising $29 million right now. Those assets are both in the United States. They're gold assets, both advanced assets, both past producing, both with infrastructure. I don't know how, if you believe in gold and the gold price and the devaluation of the dollar, which has been going on for 30 years, I think Revival Gold's something you definitely want to look at, especially with the new backers. So those are some of my past clients. Do you want me to talk about a couple of the clients that I had there that I'm a large shareholder and I still advise?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everybody's getting their money's worth today.
Yeah, Latin Metals is a company that is a prospect generator focused in Argentina and Peru. I just did a financing recently in that. Rick Rule also came into that financing. That's why Latin Metals was at the conference. Rick only invites people that he's a shareholder in, that he's vetted. Rick very much likes the prospect generator model. So Latin Metals is a very interesting company. It's been a little painful for me. I got involved 3 years ago. It's taken a while to get the permits. But Anglo just got their permit. That's a joint venture partner, the major miner on their project there. They have another partner that's a very well-financed private company that's getting their permits now. I think you'll see a lot of drilling there, which, as Rick likes to say, and you like to say, Gerardo, a lot of shots on goal.
Yes,
so
sir.
Latin Metals is something you might want to look at. And then I was also there with probably one of the best women in the business, two of them actually, Empress Royalty, which is run by Alex Woodyear, and Michelle Borromeo is their strategic advisor. Got to spend some time with them. Alex is executing on a gold silver royalty model. She's sort of royalty in the gold and silver space. She comes from a family that has helped build some of the biggest royalty companies in the space, like Wheaton Precious Metals. So she just turned positive cash flow this year. David Rhodes sits on their board. He is the head of Endeavor Financial. They're the large shareholders. They're a major financer in the space. I think you've heard Rick say before, very good and competition for him. And when Rick says that, that's
absolutely. That's a
pretty
heck of
big
an endorsement. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So Empress Royalty is the company, and they're on fire. They, their stock's done really well, but I would never bet against Empress and that team. They're hardworking, and I think you're going to see more deals. And then the precious metal market that I see coming, I think they'll do great. So those are two of the companies that I'm still all these companies I'm a large shareholder in, but I'm actively advising those two companies. And then here's one for you to sort of end it. I was involved in the rare earth boom quite heavily. I think I financed all 4 of the U.S. listed companies back in 2009 at very early stages.
So where I got my start, Jeff, as you know, and I thought I was smart, and I confused the bull market for brains, and I was humbled a couple of years later, but it was a great lesson.
Yeah. Well, it was a bubble, and people always talk about bubbles, and I don't mind bubbles as long as I get in right in the beginning. But the rare stories has not changed, and it's starting to come to light. The Chinese really have us. Well, that's not an appropriate saying. The Chinese have us over a barrel. How's that? I got to meet an Australian company, and I believe I saw an interview recently that you did with Jody DeRouge, who's just a serially successful geologist / entrepreneur in our space, and he brought up Meteoric too. Meteoric is an Australian listed rare earth company. I'm going to be talking to management more, doing some more due diligence, but they've got their assets in Brazil. I think that's enough people told me to look at that company that I think I really need to do that. So.
Look, that's as thorough a list as I've heard from anyone in quite some time. I appreciate the macro take. I appreciate the overview on the conference. I encourage everyone to listen to the interview. Get a pen, get a piece of paper, write down the list of companies that Jeff just mentioned, and go to their websites and go watch their corporate presentations, because all of the companies mentioned are companies that I'm very, very familiar with, and I don't think it's a coincidence. They're all doing really, really well. But again, I think it's early days, and it sounds like you agree, Jeff.
I totally agree. And again, for your listeners, write those names down. Go to YouTube. I have a hard time with the internet, but type in Rick Rule Symposium and the company's name, and you'll probably see the interview Rick did with each of these companies. And most of the companies at Rick's conference are good companies. Again, I'm talking about companies I own, so obviously that's what you're going to get. But they were all great companies. But type in their names, Rick Rule, go watch the videos, and like you said, go to their websites, do your due diligence. But all quality, well-structured companies, and that's what's important, structure in these small cap natural resource stocks.
Jeff, always a pleasure. Thanks for your time, sir.
Thank you, Gerardo. I appreciate it.
Hey everybody, Gerardo Del Real here. If you're enjoying the content that you just saw, you can let us know in 3 simple steps. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and please share across your network and on social media. Take care, everybody.